was another shot thrown, this time from an anonymous source about a head coach that is in the SEC. So an anonymous source came out today, was it today or yesterday?
It was yesterday.
Okay. Yesterday, saying that Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin is overrated. Joe, do you think that Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin is overrated?
So the quote that was given to Athlon Sports from an anonymous SEC coach, the first program in the SEC that went all in on portal players to take them to a playoff bid went bust. Now what? This is still an inconsistent program. The loss at Florida last year is an example of why Lane Kiffin isn't considered an elite coach. I agree with this. I have been saying this. I like Lane Kiffin. I think his personality is, he's fun, he's entertaining, he stirs shit up. But I think this is very aptly put. Last year, they went as in as they possibly could have. They had the most insane portal class that we have seen. They couldn't beat Kentucky. He brought up the Florida game in this. Forget the Florida game. They couldn't beat Kentucky at home in the beginning of the year. After everybody was talking about, whoa, look at Trey Harris and all the numbers he's putting up. Oh, Jackson Dart, look at all the numbers they're putting up.
Trey Harris did get hurt in that game.
I know. But my point was that everybody thought that they were going to be some prolific team, and then they got beat the hell up by Kentucky at home at Ole Miss. It was one of the worst games I've watched from a team that was supposed to be a national title contender. And if we look past that, he's 1-11 against top 5 opponents. He's 3-15 against top 10 teams. That's not elite. We could say a coach is a good coach without saying that they're elite. That's where I have a problem with this. I feel like that there's always got to be like, this guy's one of the best in the sport. There are coaches that are better than him.
Can I just ask, and I'm not trying to fight with you on this, but I really went and tried to look of notable media people that cover the sport. Can you name anybody who said that Lane Kiffin's an elite head coach?
Not off the top of my head. I think it's.
I've seen, this is what I saw today when I looked for it. I saw a lot of people saying that he's an elite offensive play caller. Now that we can have the debate, because I think that there are times and moments where, like against Georgia last year, Joe, I mean, for crying out loud, I mean, he was in his outright bag, and you got to give that to him. Overrated, but he's overrated for what? I mean, I don't agree that anybody. See, the problem with the article, the problem with the situation is I don't know of anybody calling him elite. Like the only coaches that I have seen be called elite right now in college football is actually only one. And you would make a judgment on Ryan Day at 2. Because Ryan Day, for what it's worth, I mean, wasn't he just 1-7 against top 5 opponents in his last 8 games before this past year? Mm-hmm. I mean, so Ryan Day broke through at Ohio State. Ohio State. Joe, in today's world, Ole Miss has to be very non-conventional on how they do things. I don't think everybody understands what it takes in the state of Mississippi to do what they do what they've done. Joe, 3 of the last 4 years, he's won 10 games. In 2 of those seasons, he won 10 games in the regular season. That's never happened at Ole Miss ever. Ever. So there are different things when I look at Lane Kiffin and say, Joe, they're on a path that they've never been on before. Regardless of what they did in the portal a year ago, Joe, teams go into the state of Mississippi every year and take their top high school talent. Every year. And there's nothing that they can do about that unless they're willing to pay to play like all these other big schools are. Joe, and since 2021, Lane Kiffin won 10 games in 2021, had a down year in 2022 when they went 8-5. Last year, they went 11-2, and this past season, they went 10-3. Joe, since 2021, I'm going to ask you a question. One coach has 38 wins, one has 39. 2 of these coaches are in the SEC. One of them, Steve Sarkisian, and the other's Lane Kiffin. So I understand that there's a massive difference in reference to what has happened in reference to the last 2 years and Sark getting to the playoff. One's doing it at Texas with unlimited money, unlimited amount of money. And I know that he's fighting saying our roster's not worth $40 million. Bullshit. I thought T-Bob Hebert brought up the best point of everybody. You're paying $20 million in NIL, and you're going to have to pay 15 to 20 million in TV revenue. The shit, it's not going to be 40 million. Joe, he's almost winning 10 games per season, 39. He's at 9.9 wins per season at Ole Miss. I understand, and I actually agree with you. I don't think that he's an elite head coach. I don't. But I also don't think that he's in some average realm, because he's not. Again, if somebody went to a school that historically did not get 10 wins in the regular season, actually they never did it, and then he did it twice in 2 out of the last 3 seasons, Joe, I'm going to step back and say to myself, holy shit. Like, what he's doing there is highly impressive. So, again, I don't know if anybody's saying that he's elite, but at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and act like that Lane hasn't done some really damn good things either.
Well, this is my point, though, is the separation of talking about a guy that's elite and a coach that is a good coach in the upper category. I think elite should be reserved for coaches that are sniffing around national championships or have won national championships.
Can we name who would you put?
I know that you wouldn't agree with this, but I would actually put Sark in the elite category. He's gotten his team to the difference between the wins per season that you brought up and what's happened at the end of those seasons. He won the Big 12 championship. He got to the SEC championship. He won multiple playoff games this year. Those are all accomplishes that most coaches can't say that they have. Kirby, Ryan Day, and
you would call Ryan Day. Hold on, you would call Ryan Day elite.
He's won a national title. That is, national titles are important when we talk about accomplishments and how good teams and coaches are. It is the most important thing. So I don't know who outside of that though I would consider to be elite.
Kirby Smart.
Well, I said Kirby.
Okay. Let me ask this question.
Yeah.
Is Dabo Swinney elite?
Dabo, I would put in the elite category, but he's kind of in a weird. He's probably at the bottom of that list because they haven't been as good recently. But he's won multiple national titles. He's won multiple playoff games. He has won the ACC time and time again, even in down years. Yeah, Dabo would fit into that category. I don't think I'd put anybody else in. I wouldn't put anybody in the Big 12. I wouldn't put any of the other SEC coaches in there. But this is what I'm getting at, is that I'm fine with saying that Lane Kiffin's a good coach. He's one of the better coaches in college football.
I think he's a very good coach.
He has.
I think you could make the argument that he's a great coach.
Well, then we kind of end up just talking through semantics of the change. Well, the difference between good and great. But look, what I'm getting at here is that he has accomplished something that has not been done at Ole Miss, which is producing multiple years of winning in stringing them together with this amount of wins to be in the conversation, to be around one of the top teams in the SEC. It doesn't happen consistently at Ole Miss. It's just very difficult to do.
Very.
But his inability to win big games has to catch our attention. It has to. So we have to pay close attention to that.
So he's James Franklin at a lesser school.
Yeah, I mean, that's the easiest comparison. He's James Franklin.
But here's the problem with that. He's not supposed to win those games.
So we're giving him a pass because he's not expected to beat the likes of Florida and Alabama and Georgia.
Well, he did beat Georgia this year.
They beat him this year, but
yeah, but at the same time, if you go and look at the money spent, in the portal, that's 1 year. They did that for 1 year, and they tried to do it because they had to do it. Joe, I mean, of all the money that gets spent by these top elite coaches, one's at Texas, one's at Ohio State, one's at Georgia, one's at Clemson. It doesn't come – they're at elite programs that will spend. Maybe you could make the argument that Clemson won't. Ole Miss is not going to spend for high school players like that. They're just not going to. They don't have the infrastructure, nor do they have the capacity to do that. My question would be, Joe, is if you put Lane Kiffin at Florida with unlimited resources, what happens?
Well, part of what kind of happens here is that he's had 2 shots. He was at 2 different programs that had a lot of money to spend. He was at Tennessee. He dipped Tennessee to go to USC. He gets fired from the USC job. Now he's worked his way back up to Ole Miss.
Yep.
Part of me kind of feels that he has entered into a situation. He could have waited another year for a different SEC job to open up and stayed at FAU before making the jump. I feel like that this was deliberate for him, that he wouldn't need to live up to higher expectations. I think that he's more than happy with the fact that he is doing what he's doing, winning 9-10 games a year. If they get into a playoff at one point, nobody expects Ole Miss to win a national title, nor do I think that they will ever win a national title in the modern era.
I don't either. I'm going to push back on one little bit thing that you said there.
Okay.
The USC thing was tough because they were going through extremely massive amounts of sanctions. The Pete Carroll sanctions and the Reggie Bush sanctions were real. Of the 85 scholarship players that he had, if you remember, didn't they get like 15 scholarships cut? I mean, it's not as if that's
they would have given him more leeway if they wanted to keep him around. Like if they thought that he was doing more.
Well, I mean, look
bring it up all the time. Brian Kelly does a lot with, or he did a lot with less in his first year, that you always bring up how they were down on scholarships and all that. They went to the SEC championship game in a harder conference.
The only thing, and now Brian Kelly's going to have to live up to it this year. Mm-hmm. But the only thing is that LSU will go out there and spend a shitload of money. And the problem is USC versus LSU, in reference to what it was, LSU's been in SEC championship games and national championship games and won them. USC hasn't been there since when? 03, 04? Like I get what it's just a massive difference. And listen, USC has shown that they can't have the capacity to lock their state down, much less lock anything down. No one's gone in there and done anything since he's left. No one. I mean, I guess Lincoln 1 year.
Right.
One season you were successful. Look, in reference to Lane and in reference to Elite, just to wrap this all up in a bow, there's not one person that I've seen come out here and say that he was elite. No, not one. If you came to me, Joe, and said, "Can you?" I'm
just saying there must be people that we're not thinking of that have put him in the upper category. There are supporters for him in the media. I just can't think of them off the top of my head.
Well, Feinbaum is one of them. I mean, is he a top 10 head coach in the country? That would be the question that I ask.
No.
Okay, so not. You name 4: Sark, Ryan Day, Kirby, Dabo. Who are the other 6 that you would put ahead of him?
I would put
Marcus Freeman.
I would put Kalen DeBoer ahead of him. He got to a national championship with a team that is comparable in resources, in roster development as Ole Miss. He was able to get them there. I'd put Brian Kelly ahead of him. He's reached multiple college football playoffs and a national title. That needs to get recognition.
And he's 7-2 against him.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to think if there's anyone else I'm missing in the SEC.
Would you put James Franklin ahead of him?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, I don't think I could do that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you need 3 more that you think is better than them.
Well, when we do our head coach ranking.
Oh, well, hold on now. It starts getting to, you got to start splitting hairs here.
Yeah,
I know.
I mean, I think you'd have to put Lincoln.
There's no way.
He's got a multiple college football playoffs.
And one guy ran from the SEC and then didn't want to go into the Big Ten at USC. There's no way I'm putting those.
Okay, so we won't include him. I mean, there's definitely coaches that we're missing here.
I'm trying to think.
Dan Lanning. Holy shit. There's other SEC coaches that we're missing here that we're not thinking of.
Kurt Signetti.
I mean,
I'm not putting Signetti over.
It's too soon to do that, but I would argue that. I mean, he's got a longer track record.
Again, when you start talking about the top 10, I don't know if. How about this? I don't know if he doesn't hover around it.
I think he's 11 or 12, but I don't think he's top 10.
You still got 2 more that you got to give to me before you get to Lane.
Considering the show ends in 2 minutes, I think it would take me too long to really piece that list together. By the way, we missed a super chat from Alex.
Okay. By the way, you know who you would have put in